It's day 19 of the hush money trial, and the star witness Michael Cohen will once again take the stand. Here's Trump arriving at court.
Mr. Trump, are you going to testify?
I'm following you. Sir, have your advisors, extra lawyers advised you not to testify?
Thank you very much. I'm here instead of campaigning. As you know, I was supposed to be in a very different state this morning, and the judge actually decided to call it early. And yet, it looks like we're going to have a very big gap between days, and it's going to be determined right now in court. But we're here about an hour early today. I was supposed to be making a speech for political purposes. I'm not allowed to have anything to do with politics because I'm sitting in a very freezing cold courtroom for the last 4 weeks. It's very unfair. They have no case, they have no crime. It's been determined by everybody, every legal scholar. New York Post editorial board today, Trump prosecution wind down. It's always been a witch hunt with a prosecution winding down in Donald Trump's Manhattan case. We have to ask, in the immortal words of Peggy Lee, is that all there is? That's the New York Post editorial board. It's become utterly apparent, if that wasn't seen already, that the key elements to any prosecution is missing. The key element is missing, and it says, what's missing? A crime. There's no crime. You know, they go through all this stuff, and there was nothing done wrong. NDAs are perfect. And by the way, legal expenses. You know, we paid a legal expense. You know what it's marked down in the book says? A legal expense. Again, it's not marked down as construction. It's not marked down as sheetrock and cinder block. It's marked down as legal expense. You have a lawyer. You pay him a legal expense, and it's covered in the book as legal expense. I had nothing to do with it. The bookkeeper put it down as a legal expense. This is why I'm here, because we called it a legal expense, a payment to a lawyer. Jonathan Turley, even liberal experts have continued to express doubt over where's the crime. Andy McCarthy, let's stick with the relevant, undisputed facts of the case. Mershon should dismiss this case. He should dismiss this case immediately. Bragg's evidence is woefully inadequate. This case should be dismissed. It should have never been brought. And the judge is highly conflicted. He's a corrupt judge. He's highly conflicted. He's totally corrupt. And he's interfering with an election. Greg Jarrett, there is no credible evidence of a crime. Bragg's case against the accused is beyond anemic. It is an audacious, corruption of the legal process, and a very dangerous one. No fair or competent judge dedicated to upholding justice would have ever allowed such a case. It's a train wreck. And he goes on and on and on. No judge except this one would allow this case to continue. He's corrupt. Alan Dershowitz, who I think is standing right behind me. We have many people from Congress, senators, congressmen. We've had them here all week. And I say, don't come. And by the way, outside looks like it's supposed to be Fort Knox. There are more police than I've ever seen anywhere because they don't want to have anybody come down. There's not a civilian within 3 blocks of the courthouse. But at Columbia University, you can set up a tent and burn down the doors right opposite the front entrance. It's a disgrace. Alan Dershowitz's Trump trial is a stupendous legal catastrophe. All Americans, regardless of political affiliation, should be appalled at this selective prosecution. Today, it's a great term. I should use it now. I will. Selective prosecution. This all comes from the White House. It all comes from the DOJ in the White House. Take a look who's in the room. This all comes from the DOJ and the White House. It's an attack on Biden, who's mentally unfit. He's mentally unfit to be the president of this country. It's an attack on his political opponent. That's all it is. All of the things you saw over the last 4 weeks, most of it should have never even been brought up. And then on top of that, there's no crime. And we go on day after day, and I tell Iowa, I'm sorry, I won't be able to make it. I tell New Hampshire, sorry, I won't be able to make it. I'm sitting in an icebox all day. Today, this is Alan Dershowitz. Today, the target is Trump. Tomorrow, it may be a Democrat. After that, you and me, who knows? The criminal justice system is on trial in New York. It's making New York State. I love this state. I love the people of this state. I'm running hard in New York. I think we're going to win New York. But it's making New York and our judicial system. And then I had Judge Kaplan, who's horrible, the most biased people. And they gave me 3 judges. And Gorin, he doesn't know the first thing about finance. It's supposed to be a trial in front of the complex divisions, so for complex situations. He had no idea. He said Mar-a-Lago's worth $18 million. When it's worth $1 billion to $1.5 billion, it's worth 100 times the amount, 50 to 100 times. All corrupt, and it's all coordinated. It's a shame. Mark Levin, John Adams said liberty without virtue is tyranny. We have tyranny right now. We have tyranny right now, and we're disgracing our New York court system. And we're really disgracing our country, because all over the world they're watching. Bill O'Reilly, Donald Trump and his family do not deserve this blatant miscarriage of justice. Don't applaud the destruction of justice, because you may be on the receiving end someday. That's Bill O'Reilly and hundreds of others. I don't think there's one person that says that this trial is legitimate, and everybody's talking about the judge. The judge shouldn't be doing this trial. He's totally conflicted. This is the most conflicted judge probably in the history of the court system. And everyone knows what I'm talking about. Thank you very much.
Will you
Sir, have
testify?
your lawyers advised you not to testify?
Will you testify, Mr. Trump? Mr. Trump, do you want to testify?
Are you afraid to testify, sir?
The day started with Michael Cohen testifying again. Trump's lawyers managed to strike a blow to Cohen's credibility. They have tried to establish in the jurors' minds that the prosecutor's star witness is a liar, and that he was an unethical lawyer who secretly recorded his client Donald Trump and others. Now they have gotten him to admit he is also a thief. Trump's defense lawyer Todd Blanche asked Cohen earlier whether he billed the Trump organization $50,000 to cover a $20,000 bill and kept the difference. Yes, sir, Cohen replied, which could prove to be a massive blow for Cohen's credibility, which was always on shaky ground. Cohen explained during earlier questioning that Trump didn't originally want to pay the company Red Finch for IT services. They reportedly helped to rig some online polls to favor Trump. At the time, prosecutors asked Cohen, "Why did you then ask for $50,000 back?" "Because that's what was owed and I didn't feel Mr. Trump deserved the benefit of the difference," he replied. Susan Hoffinger tried to clean up some of the damage that defense lawyer Todd Blanche did to Michael Cohen's credibility during the cross-examination. For prosecutors, it is essential that they ensure the jury finds Cohen believable. He is one of the few witnesses who can speak to key elements of the case, including Donald Trump's intent and alleged involvement. They have buttressed as much of his account as they can with supporting evidence and testimony, but the prosecution could lose this case if the jury loses faith in Cohen. The jury are allowed to disregard his testimony entirely if they don't find him credible. Blanche was trying to sow reasonable doubt over multiple days of cross-examination. Many legal experts have said that the prosecution had approached a difficult task with organization and efficiency. They sort of connected a fascinating novel about how all of these characters interacted, says Columbia Law School professor John Coffey. Michael Cohen has proven key in telling the court how Trump allegedly directed him to make a hush money payment and then paid him back. He also helped speak to Trump's intent, testifying that he was focused entirely on the effect the story could have on his campaign, says former Manhattan prosecutor Lance Fletcher. The prosecutors have done everything possible to show everyone that this wasn't done to protect Melania. It wasn't done to protect family, he adds. If I was gonna bet, I would bet on a conviction, Fletcher says. But I don't think it's a slam dunk. The prosecution rested its case, and that was the end of an enthralling 4 days of testimony from Michael Cohen. Then it was time for Donald Trump's lawyers to call their own witnesses. The witness was Robert Costello, a lawyer and Trump ally who once gave Cohen some legal advice, caused a dramatic moment when he muttered in annoyance after an objection was sustained by the judge. This caused Justice Merchan to clear the courtroom of reporters and dramatically reprimanded Costello, barking at him, "You don't make a side eye. You don't roll your eyes." Then in a louder tone, the judge asked the witness if he was staring him down. Costello testifies that at the time, Cohen was complaining about another one of Trump's lawyers, Rudy Giuliani. Then defense lawyer Emil Bove moves on to ask, "Did you ever put any pressure on Michael Cohen to do anything?" Costello says that he did not. Costello confirms that he considered Cohen a client at the time, though they did not have an official engagement letter. Emil Bove wraps up his questions by asking Robert Costello if he's commented publicly on the case and to confirm that he testified to Congress about Cohen while this trial was going on. Costello admits that he has, and that was the end of the defense's questions for Costello. Near the end of the day, the defense tried once again to get the trial dismissed. Prosecutors will finish their cross-examination of Costello tomorrow. Here's Trump leaving court.
Mr. Trump, how's Costello doing?
Was he staring down the judge? So thank you very much. You saw what we saw. That was an incredible display. I've never seen anything like it in my life. A tyrant. And everyone's talking about it. This is what we have. We have an acting judge, appointed judge by Democrats, by the club. And they're keeping now, I guess this is our 4th week, soon to be our 5th week. Not campaigning, but you saw what happened, what just took place in that court. And hopefully the motion to dismiss this trial will go through, because this trial is a disaster for our country. It's a disaster for New York State, New York City. Greg Jarrett just says, "Where exactly is the crime?" To quote a memorable line from Shakespeare in Love, "I don't know, it's a mystery." There is just no crime. Andy McCarthy, if it's unconstitutional for Texas to enforce federal immigration law, how is it constitutional for New York to enforce federal election law? They're going by federal law. It's never happened before. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. This is a witch hunt. This is a witch hunt. This is to damage crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country, by far, to damage his political opponent. That's all this is. A highly political judge, a totally conflicted judge, who just did something that nobody's ever seen. And the press is not happy, I don't imagine. They just got thrown out of a courthouse. Nobody's ever seen anything quite like it. These things are consistent. Bragg has no authority to enforce election law. And we did nothing wrong. Ted Cruz has said it's over 200 years. Never once has a president of the United States been indicted over no crime. No crime. Molly Hemingway, very smart woman. This is a show trial. There is no actual crime or evidence. Molly Hemingway, respected by everybody, by the way. Here's a very liberal gentleman, but a very talented one, critically acclaimed director, Oliver Stone. Haven't heard his name mentioned in a while. It's a new form of warfare. It's called lawfare, and that's what they're using against Trump. That's Oliver Stone, who I think is a super liberal, but even he's talking. I must tell you, I've never had such liberal, or as they say nowadays, progressive support. Mark Levin, you're living through what is not only the worst presidency in American history, that's Biden, when it comes to domestic and foreign affairs, but when it comes to our Constitution, the rule of law, law and order, which is the core to this republic, Biden is dismantling it, and he's destroying it. I don't even know if it's him. I think it's the people around his desk, that beautiful beautiful resolute desk in the Oval Office. It's a horrible thing. The country's never been in this position. We're doing badly in so many different ways, and we're falling apart, and we're not respected in the world anymore. They're looking at us and saying, hey, they're no different than we are. Bad countries are saying that. They're saying that the United States is no different than we are. Gavin Wax, the globalist elite, severely miscalculated by declaring war on Trump. I guess he's referring to the fact that the polls are through the roof, but I'm not even talking about that. And the polls are the highest they've ever been. Andrew and Katie Cherkasky, who are terrific lawyers, as everyone knows. It's passed on for Judge Michon to dismiss this case. Trump's business records, there's no false entry. By the way, they paid a legal expense and they marked it legal expense. And I say it every day. They could have said construction. They could have said this is for construction purposes. This is for some other purposes. You're building a building. They say building expense. They called legal fees, which is legal expense. They called it legal expense. They paid a lawyer money, legal expense. And in the lawyer's bill, he talks of retainer. It's a retainer. He calls it a retainer. Former Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker, the prosecution, has presented absolutely no evidence of a crime. David Catron, the American Spectator, good people over there, Judge Mershon's animosity toward Trump and his inability to ensure a fair trial is not lost on the voters. Never seen anything like it. And this goes on and on. Ross Duhat, New York Times. I would defy anyone to summarize the underlying situation in which a presidential candidate could be sent to prison for a misdemeanor offense, very small, but there's not even a misdemeanor. For a misdemeanor offense elevated by a second crime for which he isn't even being charged. I'm not even being charged for it. They didn't know what to charge him. They haven't even charged me with the crime. You know what the crime is? I beat Hillary Clinton. That's what the crime is. And they don't want me to beat, on behalf of, I think, 200 million people, they don't want me to beat Biden. Okay? But it's a shame. This is what they've done. And just to finish out, without the description coming across as somewhat Kafkaesque, the CNN panel just came out. This is significant. There is no direct link to Trump in this alleged conspiracy. That's from CNN. Laura Coates of CNN, not a fan of mine as I understand it, possibly fatally undermines the prosecution's case. This is a disaster. But she said here, undermines the prosecution's case. This case should be dropped by the judge. I think the judge, if he did that, could gain the respect back. We have to, either the appellate court has to step in, something has to happen. Think of it, the Republican Party, one of the two great parties, nominate somebody to be their candidate, and that candidate now has been sitting here for almost 5 weeks in a freezing cold icebox, listening to this stuff, no crime. Ellie Honig of CNN, the crux of the case is Trump knew this and that. Let's see, he says some statement down here. Trump didn't know. He never would have agreed to be robbed by Cohen. He absolutely didn't know. This is a bomb being dropped on the prosecution's case. This is cruising to prosecution credibility. I'll tell you what. New York State is being hurt so badly by this, and they're watching all over the world, and businesses are going to be leaving the state. They already are, unfortunately, but they're going to be leaving because they can't be subject to this. And Gorin and Kaplan, other judges that have just created a horrible scar on our Constitution. Hopefully the appellate courts will take care of it. But this did not ask Cohen about that or on direct, and this is Ellie Honig, have not made him plead guilty to larceny because you know what's taking place. I mean, you saw that. I won't even mention it because remember, I have a gag order. I'm not supposed to be talking about certain things. And so I'm being very careful, but you saw what happened. And this is CNN mentioning it, which it is, larceny, which it is, and you know what they're talking about because there was an admittance. The money I won't say that. It's the money so I won't say that. In fact, you're going to have to get this one because I can't read it. I've been gagged from reading this. But it's a vicious statement by a respected person at CNN, Ellie Honig. So you'll have to read that one yourself because I've been gagged. Let's see, it turns out now that Trump was, yeah, that's right. You can read that. I can't read it because I'm not allowed to say it. A CNN legal commentator. The prosecutor misled this jury. So there is a case to be made because 5 people have stated it very professionally that the prosecutor should be prosecuted. District Attorney Soros Bragg should be prosecuted because he knew when he submitted his case all about the lies, and therefore he's committed a crime. Many people have said that they should turn this around. He knew that this was a fake case. He knew that the lies are all over the place. We're not just talking about a small amount. Also, you have to go get the Southern District's about a 28-page book on lies, which the judge wouldn't allow. And by the way, the judge wouldn't allow that. The Southern District, highly respected, a book of 28 pages, I believe, or more, of lies. We're not allowed to put it in. The expert witness that we have, the best there is in election law, Brad Smith, he's considered the Rolls Royce, or we'll bring it back to an American car, Cadillac. But the best there is. He can't testify, not being allowed to testify. And you saw what happened to a highly respected lawyer today, Bob Costello. Wow. I've never seen anything like that. Highly respected. But remember this, we can't put in an expert witness. We're not allowed to put in an expert witness. Nobody's ever heard of it before. You know, election law is very complicated, actually. And we're not allowed to have an expert witness because the judge wants to rule on it. He said, we don't need an expert witness, I guess. He said he'll rule on it. No, he needs help. And we have the #1 person, either side will admit it, Brad Smith, on a very complex law where we did nothing wrong. I will tell you that right now. And he doesn't want him to testify. That's because he's going to say we did nothing wrong. Clay Travis. Oops, I can't say that one because again I have a gag order. Brett Tobin goes through a whole big thing on a witness today, so I can't talk about it. Buck Sexton, the exact same thing. Kim Parlatore, who's a very good lawyer, CNN commentator. It's not only going to the credibility, it also goes to Alvin Bragg's office's credibility. How did they not get this out ahead of time? Why didn't they? That's what everyone's asking now. How did they put something like this out? And then he goes on to things I'm not allowed to talk about. Can you believe it? Here I am, vice presidential. We have 15 people that I'm supposed to be meeting about who's going to be our vice president. But I'm stuck in the refrigerator all day. The presidential nominee, I'm down here by an acting judge. He's acting. And you know who appointed him? Democrats in a clubhouse. But hopefully, I tell you, for the good, and I hope the governor steps forward and the mayor steps forward, because you can't go. And it's like we have an armed camp outside. I mean, if you're a civilian, you can't get within 3 blocks of this courthouse. All you have is police. And they're in blue, and they look good to me. But I'll tell you what, you don't see any civilians outside. I never saw so many iron gates as I've seen the last 5 weeks. Andy McCarthy, to show he stole from the Trump organization, even as they're structuring a deal, blah, blah, blah. And now I can't talk about it because, again, I have a gag order. So I think the case is going very well. We've asked for termination of the case. This case should be terminated. This shouldn't go anywhere. It should be terminated right now. And New York State has to build up its system again. New York State can't let this happen. Can't let this happen. There were no crimes. We did nothing wrong. And I want to get back to campaigning. I'm representing millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people. In the meantime, Russia and China are now good friends. They want to take over the world. Iran is developing a nuclear weapon, and that's not going to be an easy situation when they have it. North Korea is getting frisky, and I get along with him very well, but the current administration, they don't even know his name. We have a lot of things to solve. Inflation's hitting new highs. You see that? They're hitting new highs. I should be out campaigning so we can turn the country around. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
Are you trying to testify? Did you make a decision about testifying yet?
Mr. Trump, I want to testify.
That's it for day 19. If you would like more updates from this trial, then I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel. Until next time.